Welcome, everyone. Today we'll explore how Maria Dahvana Headley's translation of Beowulf reimagines its female characters through feminist frameworks, particularly those of Luce Irigaray and Bracha Ettinger. Headley challenges the traditional patriarchal structure of the epic, reinterpreting figures like Grendel's mother, Wealhtheow, and the dragon as complex agents of resistance rather than mere secondary figures. Drawing on Irigaray's concept of mimesis, she exposes the constructed nature of masculinity, while Ettinger's matrixial theory reframes the mere as a liminal, maternal space of interconnectedness and trauma. This paper examines how Headley's linguistic choices and feminist revisioning create a more inclusive reading of Beowulf, amplifying the voices of women historically marginalized within the Western literary canon. Beowulf is a foundational text in Western literature, but its original narrative largely marginalizes women. Traditional translations often portray female characters as either passive or monstrous. However, Headley's translation challenges these conventions by incorporating feminist theories. She draws on Luce Irigaray's concept of mimesis to reshape gender portrayals and introduce a new female perspective that inhabits the epic tradition. Additionally, she applies Bracha Ettinger's matrixial theory to reclaim the agency and complexity of the women in the story. Beowulf is a foundational text in Western literature, but its original narrative largely silences women. Traditional translations often depict female characters as either passive or monstrous. Headley's translation, however, challenges this by applying feminist theories. Luce Irigaray's mimesis inhabits the story to shift gender portrayals, building a new female perspective. Bracha Ettinger's matrixial theory helps reclaim their agency and complexity, redefining Grendel's mother as a warrior woman rather than a mere monster. Wealhtheow emerges as a shrewd political strategist, while even the dragon is recast as a figure of violated sovereignty. Through these frameworks, Headley critiques patriarchal narratives and exposes the underlying gender dynamics within Beowulf, transforming it into a space where women's voices are not just heard but are central. Headley highlights the ways women exercise agency even within patriarchal constraints. Queens like Wealhtheow and Hygd maneuvered within the social structures of Anglo-Saxon society, using diplomacy and negotiation to assert their influence. Wealhtheow, often viewed as a passive hostess, emerges in Headley's translation as a politically astute queen who subtly shapes the future of the kingdom through gift-giving and calculated speech. Hygd likewise leverages her position to secure power, persuading Beowulf to accept the throne instead of her son, thus demonstrating a nuanced form of female agency. However, other female figures, such as Freyawaru and Hildebur, reveal the precarious limitations of peace-weaving marriages, in which women were used as political pawns to forge alliances. These unions often failed to prevent conflict, as seen in Hildebur's tragic fate, losing both her brother and son to the very war her marriage was supposed to prevent. Her grief, much like that of the unnamed Geatish woman who mourns a future marked by violence and uncertainty, underscores the cycle of male aggression that continues unchecked. Beowulf himself is revealed as a tragic figure, embodying toxic masculinity through his relentless pursuit of glory and refusal to accept help. Despite knowing the risk, his insistence on fighting the dragon alone highlights his internalization of an ideal that equates vulnerability with weakness. In contrast, Headley's portrayal of female characters offers alternative models of strength, rooted in resilience, negotiation, and communal survival rather than brute force. By reframing Beowulf's narrative through a feminist lens, Headley exposes the destructive consequences of unchecked masculinity while foregrounding the often overlooked roles women played in shaping their world. One of the most striking aspects of Headley's translation is her deliberate use of modern language to amplify Beowulf's hyper-masculinity. Slang terms like bro and flex emphasize his bravado, making his heroism feel performative and exaggerated. This linguistic choice not only modernizes the text, but also highlights the gendered power dynamics at play. Meanwhile, poetic moments like the Geatish Woman's Lament underscore the ongoing cycles of violence and female suffering, reinforcing the translation's broader feminist critique. Despite these modern elements, Headley remains rooted in the traditions of Anglo-Saxon poetry. She preserves key stylistic features such as consonants, alliteration, and kennings, evident in her description of Grendel's mother as a woman warrior. This balance between innovation and tradition allows her to reimagine the epic while maintaining its original poetic integrity. Headley's linguistic strategies align with Luce Irigaray's concept of mimesis. By exaggerating masculine speech and behaviors, she exposes their constructed nature. This is particularly evident in Beowulf's boastful rhetoric, which Headley amplifies through idioms like, "He was the man, he was the man," parodying his performative heroism. At the same time, she deepens the portrayal of female characters, ensuring their voices resonate more powerfully with contemporary readers. Grendel's mother, for example, is not merely a monstrous antagonist but a warrior woman and reclusive night queen driven by maternal grief rather than senseless violence. Headley reinterprets Grendel's mother's mere as a feminist space rather than a monstrous lair. Ettinger's matrixial theory helps us understand it as a womb-like place, interconnected, liminal, maternal. Beowulf's descent into the mere and his battle with Grendel's mother can even be read as a symbolic rebirth, where he confronts maternal trauma and resistance. The mere, described as an uncanny, submerged hall, becomes a space of female agency that disrupts patriarchal narratives. Unlike Heorot, the hypermasculine mead hall where power is asserted through boasts and battles, the mere functions as a site of submerged feminine power and alternative social order. Grendel's mother, far from a mindless monster, is portrayed as a warrior woman enacting blood-feud justice, much like the male warriors in the poem. However, her violence is framed as unnatural, reinforcing patriarchal anxieties about maternal rage and sovereignty. The mere's depths symbolize the exclusion of feminine power from the heroic tradition, while Beowulf's struggle within it reflects the epic's underlying tension between hegemonic masculinity and suppressed female agency. By situating the mere within Ettinger's framework, Headley offers a radical rereading where Grendel's mother is not an aberration, but a figure of maternal strength and resilience, challenging the binary oppositions of hero and monster. One of the key takeaways from Headley's translation is how it dismantles traditional binary oppositions. The monster-human divide is blurred. Grendel's mother and the dragon are no longer just villains but figures of maternal resistance. Grendel's mother, recast as a warrior woman and reclusive night queen, enacts a blood-feud vengeance similar to that of male warriors, yet her actions are demonized due to her gender. Similarly, the dragon, described as female, is no longer a mere hoarder of treasure, but a figure of violated sovereignty, whose rage mirrors the maternal grief that drives Grendel's mother. Headley also challenges the binary between heroism and monstrosity, positioning Beowulf as a tragic figure embodying toxic masculinity. His refusal to accept help in his final battle leads to his downfall, exposing the limitations of the heroic ideal. In contrast, female characters like Wealhtheow and Hygd wield power through diplomacy and foresight, demonstrating alternative forms of strength. Even the Geatish Woman's Lament underscores how women, though marginalized, bear witness to the consequences of male violence. By reframing these figures, Headley shifts the epic's focus from brute force to resilience, negotiation, and communal survival. Maria Dahvana Headley's Beowulf is a radical reinterpretation that dismantles the traditional patriarchal framework of the epic, highlighting female agency and resistance. Drawing on feminist philosophical frameworks such as Luce Irigaray's concept of mimesis and Bracha Ettinger's matrixial theory, Headley subverts the dominant male narrative by reimagining female characters as complex figures with agency. Grendel's mother evolves from a monstrous antagonist into a warrior woman, driven by maternal grief and blood feud ethics, while Wealhtheow and Hygd emerge as political strategists rather than passive peace weavers. Even the dragon, recast as female, symbolizes violated sovereignty and maternal rage, further challenging conventional hero-monster binaries. Additionally, Headley's use of modern vernacular, including slang such as bro, exposes the performative masculinity of Beowulf and critiques toxic heroic ideals. Her translation ultimately reframes Beowulf as a critique of patriarchal violence, highlighting the silenced voices of women and their roles in shaping the epic's legacy. Thank you for listening. I'd love to open the floor for discussion. What are your thoughts on Headley's feminist translation of Beowulf? Have you encountered other feminist reinterpretations of classic texts? And how do you feel about the use of modern language in translating historical literature? Headley's approach challenges traditional readings by foregrounding female voices and disrupting the binary of hero and monster. Grendel's mother is no longer a mere antagonist, but a warrior woman enacting blood feud justice, while Wealhtheow and Hygd navigate political power. Her use of modern slang exposes performative masculinity, making Beowulf resonate with contemporary gender critiques. What do you think about these shifts? Do they enhance or detract from the epic's impact? Do they make this epic from Anglo-Saxon times still relevant today?